There have been 85 days of protest so far, each one with a different objective. This time protesters wanted to reach the office of Venezuela's Attorney General Luis Ortega to show their support. Ortega has been challenging the call by the government of President Nicolás Maduro to redraft the constitution and could be removed from office.
Maduro is planning a fraudulent process. We want solutions to the economic crises, social crises, and the only way to do this is with free and fair elections.
Protesters gathered in different parts of the city, planning to converge on the center.
Every time there's a protest in Caracas, there are also roadblocks like this one. They're called guarimbas, and the people that you can see here are mostly students. The government says that they are terrorists, but these people say that this is the only way they have so that the government hears their demands.
The roadblocks generate chaos and fear among regular citizens. On this occasion, demonstrators kidnapped trucks to block the roads.
We are not terrorists. They say that because we cover our faces. The National Guard also covers their faces.
There was chaos again in Caracas, with security forces using tear gas and guns against the protesters. A 22-year-old man who worked as a nurse was killed, shot in the stomach by the National Guard. At the presidential palace, Nicolás Maduro received the foreign press. He told them he's open to negotiations with the opposition.
We have permanent contact with leaders of the opposition, but these contacts are secret. I want a dialogue with an agenda, but our condition is that they disarm their groups and they stop taking their children to demonstrations.
The opposition says it won't acknowledge the government's call for a constitutional assembly and planning to disrupt the process.
Whoever tries will be committing a crime and will be detained immediately. I only say it to those scary and crazy minds that are calling to attack electoral centers.
These people do not appear to be worried by that warning. They want new presidential elections and will continue to protest, even though the government...
North Korea says it will be ready by mid-August with a plan to fire 4 missiles near the US territory of Guam as the war of words with Washington intensifies. Guam, in the Pacific, is home to about 160,000 people and a US military base that includes a submarine squadron. A statement on North Korea's news agency website said a plan to fire the missiles over Japan towards Guam would soon be ready to await the order of the country's commander-in-chief.
I don't think North Korea is going to strike Guam. I'm fairly comfortable in that assessment. But they could choose, instead of testing their missiles within a relatively close range to North Korea, which they've been doing, what if they shot that missile into the EEZ, or the exclusive economic zone of Guam or of California? That would change, I think, the political reality here in the United States.
Trump's recent unexpected warning that North Korea would face fire and fury if it threatened the United States has fueled tensions between Washington and Pyongyang and unnerved regional powers.
It raises doubt in China and in our allies' minds, South Korea and Japan, about what our policy really is. And for South Korea in particular, but also Japan, they're right in the neighborhood of where the backlash would come if we chose to take some kind of military strike, because we decide that we can't tolerate this vulnerability.
While the situation has triggered alarm and anti-war protests in Washington, the White House claims nothing has dramatically changed in the last few days and urged Pyongyang to halt its arms program.
North Korea has staged a massive outdoor rally to protest against the UN's latest sanctions on Pyongyang over its continued missile tests. While Kim Jong-un's regime shows defiance, Japan said it won't ever tolerate North Korean provocation, but stressed it is ready should an attack occur. Our government has been preparing for various possible situations that could call for the evacuation or protection of our citizens in Japan and in foreign countries. We've been contemplating scenarios and preparing to gather information, arrange transportation and confirm the safety of our people. Defense authorities in South Korea, another staunch US ally, had a stark message for their reclusive northern neighbor. Our military gives a stern warning. If North Korea conducts provocation in defiance of our military's grave warning, it will confront the strong and firm response of our military and the US-South Korea alliance. The United States and South Korea remain technically still at war with the North after the Korean conflict in the 1950s ended with a truce, not a peace treaty. The border between the two Koreas is one of the world's most heavily fortified frontiers.
The 9th of August 2007 probably means little to most people, but for the financial world it's a day etched on the memory. Generally considered to be the start of the global financial crisis, exactly 10 years ago to the day French banking giant BNP Paribas froze 2 funds exposed to US subprime mortgages. The move sparked panic and saw short-term lending between banks grind to a halt. A month later, long queues began forming outside Northern Rock, triggering the first run on a UK high street bank since the 1860s. While there had been plenty of earlier warning signs, mayhem soon followed, culminating in the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Cue massive write-downs, bank failures and huge government bailouts, the impact of which is still being very much felt today.
An Israeli soldier who shot dead a wounded Palestinian assailant has begun serving time in a military prison following one of the most divisive trials in Israel's history. As he arrived, Elor Azaria was surrounded by a crowd of supporters who turned out to protest. The 21-year-old former army conscript's manslaughter conviction and 18-month sentence were upheld by a military appeals court last month. The events in Hebron in March last year were caught on video by a Palestinian human rights activist. Abdel Fattah al-Sharif had already been shot, having reportedly tried to stab 2 soldiers. More than 10 minutes later, Azaria is seen firing at the man as he lay injured on the ground. The soldier claimed in court he feared al-Sharif might be hiding an explosive belt. Senior generals said he was not in danger and stressed the importance of upholding the army's code of ethics. The case has polarized opinion. Azaria, who's expressed no regret, goes to jail amid a clamour for clemency among many Israelis. For many Palestinians, his 18-month sentence is far too lenient, arguing even Palestinian children have received longer terms for throwing stones.
The US State Department says it has expelled 2 Cuban diplomats from Washington following a series of unexplained incidents at the US Embassy in Havana. American officials are said to have suffered mysterious physical symptoms, including permanent hearing loss, in what has been described as a covert acoustic attack. US officials say staff at the embassy began complaining of strange symptoms late last year.
Welcome back. Hope you're all having a good week. What this requires is providing medical examinations to these people. Initially, when they started reporting what I will just call symptoms, it took time to figure out what it was, and this is still ongoing. So we're monitoring it. We provide medical care and concern to those who believe that they have been affected by it, and we take this extremely seriously.
The 2 Cuban diplomats are said to have left Washington in May. Cuba's foreign ministry, which vehemently denies any attack, says it is investigating the allegations. At least 19 people are now confirmed dead and around 250 others have been hurt following a 7-magnitude earthquake in China's southwestern Sichuan province. Several tourists are reported to be among those killed. The quake hit a sparsely populated area 200 kilometers northwest of the city of Guanyun late on Tuesday at a depth of 10 kilometers. A few hours later, a separate tremor measuring a magnitude of 6.6 hit China's remote northwestern region of Xinjiang. Sichuan is frequently struck by quakes. In 2008, around 80,000 people died after a massive tremor struck the province.
Y por lo menos pasa para nuestra sección deportiva. Nos te va un break y ahora nos te back más.
É programa com mais de uma década de informação. Número 1 dentro da